All right. Welcome to the course, Logo and Identity Design. My name is Bill Sweeney, and I'm your instructor. I have been graphic designer since 1971, long time. And I've been an instructor for approximately 8 years. And this particular course, I'm going to go through some of the touch points of the course. This course focuses on developing the essential skills for designing logos and corporate identities. What that essentially means is we are going to learn the appropriate way to handle the design of a logo. As far as corporate identities are concerned, corporate identities are a mixed bag of elements. We will discuss all of it, and we'll give you a pretty good idea of what a corporate identity ultimately involves. And I think you're going to find that to be very interesting. As for designing logos, logos are valuable because of their uniqueness, and the designer's job obviously is to come up with something incredibly unique, which is what we're going to be focusing on in this course, understanding how we approach the idea of creating something that's, number one, appropriate for a particular given instance, and how to do something which is unique, because obviously, you know, if you just go in and take initials and make plain initials, anybody could do that. Good evening, Teresa. How are you? You got your mic? Now I'm going to shut this off. Let me go to my, hold on here. Stop video. Teresa, can you hear me? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Unmute. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Can you turn your volume up?
It's up.
It is. Okay. It's very whispery. Maybe that's a good thing. How you doing?
I'm good, and yourself?
Good. Are you familiar with me?
Yes, sir. You helped me in the student center.
Oh, okay. So you know who I am a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You looking forward to doing this?
I am indeed.
Good. How's your skills with Adobe Illustrator?
So.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be putting you to the challenge. I am going to be showing you a lot of interesting things that I think will help you to understand the program a lot better. And right now what I'm talking about basically is the course description. I was just getting into a brief discussion. Let me shut this thing down here. Why is this thing open? There we go. Okay, we don't need that. Yeah, I was just beginning to explain a little bit about designing logos. I am going to be tonight showing you some logos. I have a PowerPoint. I generally don't use PowerPoint anymore, but I do have a particularly good PowerPoint that I did a long time ago that I think explains the different types of logos. So I'm going to actually walk through that a little bit. And I'm going to show you some logos that I did, and I'm going to go over some of my announcements to explain what some of those announcements are. I have a few of them in there that I think are kind of important for you. So, you know, I'm going to be covering a lot of stuff tonight. Eventually, I'm going to get around to going into Illustrator and show you a little bit about Illustrator and how I would work through the idea of creating a logo for, in my case, I chose the Metropolitan Art Gallery, okay? I don't know whether you personally have gone in and taken a look at the assignments yet. Have you done that, Teresa?
No, sir, I haven't had the chance to.
All right, have you chose a particular client?
No.
No?
I haven't had a chance to look at anything yet.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway, there's, I believe, three or four different clients in there. You pick one. I decided to go at Metropolitan Art Gallery. I'm not even sure why I did it. I just thought that would probably be one that I could handle fairly well, so I chose it, at any rate. Yeah. So on successful completion of this course, the student will be able to discuss the symbolic relationship between logos and corporate identities. That is most certainly the case. I have a tremendous number of links, and I have some documents which I've supplied, and I've prepared several bits of paper that I'm going to be putting into my discussions that you can read, which I think will give you a great deal of background into logos and corporate identities and what one means to the other. Because actually, the logo means something to corporate identity. That's really how this works. And we're going to go into all of that through this course. This is I personally feel this is a very fun and very interesting and challenging course. Sean Payment. Is that right, Sean? Did I say right? Sean Payment? Do you have your mic on?
Correct.
Okay, Sean Payment. Your last name is Payment?
Correct.
That's an interesting name. How you doing, Sean?
Well, how about yourself?
Good. Have you? Do you know me at all?
I have not had you yet.
Okay. You didn't have me in Blackboard either?
I have not taken Blackboard.
Okay, no problem. How is your skills with Adobe Illustrator, my friend?
My skills are intermediate.
All right. Well, we're going to try to elevate them. I have a lot of really fun and interesting things that I want to show you. One of the reasons that I like to give you guys the open mic is because I get a better feeling for you. There's a spontaneous reactions that you can give me to things. And if something occurs to you or something I'm doing is throwing you off a little bit or you miss, you can immediately stop me and, I can go back in and recover it. So as long as you're in a quiet environment and we don't get a lot of feedback from your mic, I will allow you to keep the mics on. Do many of your other instructors do this?
It kind of depends. Some don't even like us talking. It's kind of all over the board. There's not really one specific way, I don't feel.
Well, I do the teaching, you do the talking. That's the way it works here. I'm going to be doing the teaching and you're going to be doing the talking. And what it comes down to is your talking comes into play with whatever kind of thought or whatever kind of question or whatever you might think of as we go along. I think it's a very equitable way to go about it. All right?
Sounds good.
Good. All right. So then, of course, the next thing is to identify elements of an effective logo. Logo is a very important part of corporate identity. It's not the only part of corporate identity. We're going to try to distinguish what part it plays and what is the overall picture of a corporate identity. I'm waiting for a friend of mine to send me a copy, a PDF copy of a branding manual that him and I use for project, a customer of his. Are you familiar with a branding manual? Have either one of you heard of a branding manual before?
I have not.
How about you, Teresa? She's got her mic off.
No,
Have you?
I haven't heard of it.
Okay. So what a branding manual is, essentially, a branding manual is a manual of corporate identity practices. What it does is it gives you an overall picture of what you are supposed to, what you are allowed to, and what you are not allowed to do with all of the different elements within corporate identity. Is that a clear enough explanation?
Yeah, I guess I've kind of seen that. I didn't know it was called a branding magazine.
Well, branding manual.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I will have one that I'm going to be sending over to you guys. I'm waiting for my friend. I had a copy of it somewhere here, and I've misplaced it. I can't seem to locate my copy, but I do have a friend who will eventually get me that copy here. So within the next couple of weeks, I will have a branding manual PDF that I will put into one of my announcements, and you will be able to get it. Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, so you're going to integrate a company's future goals with the historic past in a logo redesign. So essentially, the project, what we're going to begin to do this week is we're going to be taking a look at a logo that was for this particular company that you choose. Oh, and by the way, Sean, have you gone in and taken a look at the assignment yet?
Yeah, I read the assignment and the assessment.
Okay, have you actually looked at any of the particular clients that they're supplying you with yet?
Yeah, who did I actually settled on one.
Oh, okay, good.
The computer solutions.
All right, very good. So what you're going to do is, and I assume then at that point you probably looked at the logo that they had.
Yeah, I grabbed out a sketch pad and I meant to start this morning, but I got busy.
That's not a problem. We're still got plenty of time. So yeah, good. Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to redesign it. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on Adobe Illustrator because one of the things that I want everybody to know right out of the gate, there is only one program that I ever want you to use to create any kind of a logo such as this, and that's Adobe Illustrator. I absolutely, for your own good, I urge you never to use Photoshop or InDesign or any other program other than Adobe Illustrator. Now, can anybody tell me why?
Personally, from experience, I would say just because of all the options that you have in Illustrator, and it puts it into the correct format for vector imaging.
That's close. That's close. So here's what it really boils down to. There are two different types of images. There are images that are known as resolution-dependent images, and then there are images that are known as resolution-independent images. Resolution-independent images can be scaled to as big as you want or as small as you want, as often as you want. Those resolution-independent images are produced in Adobe Illustrator. So if you're building something like a logo, which is going to be used at many different sizes over and over again, and in many different file formats, the smartest thing for you to do is to build that logo in Adobe Illustrator. One of the problems that you have with Photoshop is that it's resolution dependent, which means essentially you can't make things bigger too easily without reducing the resolution. Do you know what I'm talking about, you guys?
Yes.
Okay, so you know a little bit about Photoshop?
Correct.
Yeah, you know that essentially it's resolution dependent, meaning that if you have 300 pixels per inch and it's like 6 inches, if you want to make it 9 inches, you have to reduce the resolution in order to make it bigger.
Correct.
Yeah, so in other words, you can't make 300 pixels, 6-inch 300 pixels, simply go up to 900 pixels with 300, or 900, 9 inches with 300 pixels. It's not doable.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. You don't have that problem with Adobe Illustrator. So with Illustrator, you really have the ability to pretty much do whatever you want. Lester, hello, how are you? Can you turn your mic on for a second? Maybe I've got it locked. Let me see. Unmute. There you go. Lester, oops, wait a minute. Yeah, Lester, hello? Hello? Yeah, see, his mic's off, but I don't hear him.
His chat says he doesn't have a mic.
Huh?
Chat says he doesn't have a mic.
All right, where's the chat? I don't even see the darn chat. Hold on a second here. Where's the chat? Oh, my God. Can't even find it.
For mine, it's down in the bottom of the screen on a bar.
Yeah. No. Oh, boy. Yeah, I don't see it. For some reason, I'm not seeing my chat. I don't know what the story is here, why I'm not seeing it. All right, well, anyway. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to create a unique personal logo. Have any of you attempted to do that yet? Nobody?
I haven't.
No? All right, no problem.
I mean, I've done a logo before. I did one for my own business.
Okay, good. All right. And did you do it in Adobe Illustrator?
Yeah, yes.
Good for you. That's excellent. That's what you should be doing. I'm not trying to be a pain in the neck about this. I'm just trying to teach you the right way. I mean, when you work on something like a logo, Illustrator's the way to go. There's just no question about it. I mean, the fact that you could take that logo and turn it into reproducible at any size is absolutely essential for something like this. You also have the ability to work with Pantone colors as well as process colors. Now, do you guys have any experience with the Pantone color system? Have you ever heard of that?
Yes.
You have? Okay, good. That's very good, Teresa. And how about CMYK or process? You've heard of process colors, CMYK colors?
Yes.
Okay, so there are two different ways to print, and it all works into the idea of creating a logo. I mean, depending upon what your logo is going to be used for, there will be applications of it in Process, and there will be in Pantone as well. So this is kind of like what we're talking about, explaining the importance of a cohesive visual logo presentation across the variety of formats. Obviously, the way you set up your logo to be presented online will be significantly different than the way you set up a logo if it's going to be in some form of print, either CMYK or Process. So there are things like that that we're going to be covering in here. But as far as the work is concerned, we're going to be focusing on Adobe Illustrator pretty much entirely. Not because I want to gyp you out of anything, but because I want to keep your focus on what is absolutely correct here. Okay, so I think I'm gonna stop here because I got an awful lot of stuff here. But what I would like you to do is I'd like you to just take a few moments of your time later on to look through the learning objectives, because we're going to be doing as much of this as we can possibly fit into this thing, and we will actually get into a lot of this. Okay, so this ought to give you a pretty good idea of where we're heading. Any questions so far?
No, sir.
None for me.
Okay. All right, so let me go to my announcements real quick. All right, now I have a number of announcements in here. Obviously, the first one is just saying hello. So, I mean, you know, have you looked at any of these yet? I should probably ask you that.
Yes.
No? You have looked at them?
I've looked at a couple.
Okay, so I talk about Milton Glaser. God, stop this. Oh, geez. I wish I could stop that. I talk about Milton Glaser here. You may not, excuse me, you may not know who Milton Glaser is. Milton Glaser is a very big designer. He's a very big guy. He was one of my instructors at Cooper Union. And I talk about him because he did a very memorable logo design, the I Love New York logo, which I'm sure you have seen, and it has been copied endlessly. I mean, well, here's what it is. I'm sure you've seen this thing. There it is right there. You guys are familiar with it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So he did this, and he did many other things. But I called upon the use of this because I thought this was such a classic logo design. And then what I did was I showed how I actually adapted his to a, oh, stop. This is a piece that I did, and, you know, I have to thank him in part for this because obviously you could see part of his idea has trickled into my design. And the reason I'm saying this and showing this is because I can only say there's probably been, you know, maybe tens of thousands of designers that have taken that same basic concept and used it. I'm sure every one of you have seen an I Love Something, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, but he was the one that originally did it. He was the one that actually came up with the original design. So I put him in there. And then one of my other instructors was Lou Dorfsman, who worked for CBS. And he did a lot of these really interesting flat design graphics. And he was extremely good. And a very nice person, a really, really good instructor, somebody who was a real gentleman. A person that was very kind to his students, and, you know, I learned a lot from him. Milton Glaser, on the other hand, was very, how would you say it, haughty, you know, kind of very stuck up, and he was very rough on us. But you know, listen, everybody's got their own personality, and either way, I learned a lot from both of them. This is going back, though. This is going back to 1975. Because I graduated in 1976. I took the course with these two guys in 1975. So that'll give you an idea how old I am, okay? And this was at the Cooper Union. So I then gave you some links that I think will help you. These are some links to sites that discuss logo redesign. What I'm trying to do, really, is I'm trying to make your job just a little bit easier. Oh, God, I wish this would just stop. why does this got to do this now? Yeah, so I'm trying to do things that will help you make your job a little easier. So I actually went in and I found some links for logo redesign, and I've actually given you those links so that you can go in and check out a couple of the pages that they bring up and get some of your information that you're going to need. So I did that, and then continuing along that line, well, then you have your learning coach. We have our learning coach, Wanda Bryant. Do any of you know who Wanda Bryant is by any chance?
Yeah.
I don't.
No, okay. Teresa, where did you know her from Blackboard?
Yes.
Okay. Is she okay? Did you like her?
Yeah, she's
Helpful?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, she's worked with me before. She's a very nice person and very helpful. Oh, and by the way, I think this is kind of important, guys. Listen, I want to mention this right out off the bat. I'm in Blackboard every Wednesday night. I'm in Blackboard from 7 o'clock until 11 o'clock Mountain Time. I'm also in Blackboard from 9 o'clock until 12 o'clock Friday mornings. And I'm also in Blackboard Saturday nights from 7 o'clock until 12 o'clock Mountain Time. So, again, if you need me for anything at all, or if you want help or anything, you know, don't hesitate to come to Blackboard and see me. And I'll be more than happy to help you. I guess Teresa will tell you. She's been in for me. Did I help you when you came in?
More than ever.
Oh yeah. Was I nasty?
You taught me a lot, actually.
Okay, because sometimes people say, I've had people say I'm nasty, and I don't think I am, but I've had them say it. I've also...
I might be lost, but what's Blackboard?
Blackboard is the Student Learning Center.
Like office hours?
No. Teresa, do you have the link?
It's in the Shark.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Shark. Is it Blackboard, or does it say the Student Learning Center, Teresa?
It'll tell you how to get there.
What's it listed as?
It's under the, I don't know.
Oh, okay. All right, but it's in Shark. It should say either Student Learning Center or Writing Center maybe, or Blackboard, one of those three. When you come in, it's called Blackboard, but they may actually have it listed as Student Learning Center.
All right, thank you. I'll find it.
Yeah, you should be able to find it. Now, I do have a PowerPoint that I want to do this week. I generally don't do PowerPoints. I said that a little bit early. Stop this! Oh, this is annoying me. I wish I could shut that off. Yeah, I generally don't do PowerPoints, but I have a PowerPoint. And what I've also done is I've also given you a copy of the PowerPoint. Okay, so there's actually a copy of the PowerPoint here if you want to have it, that you can refer back to it. Okay, and we'll do that in a minute. And then I wanted to offer you the ability to work with what is known as flat design. Have you ever heard of it? Have any of you ever heard of the idea or concept of flat design? Have you ever heard that before?
No.
Did you say yeah, Teresa?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, flat design is incredibly interesting, and I think it's probably something you're going to like very much, and I think you're going to find it's going to make things a lot easier for you if you actually work within the context of flat design. So that's why I included this link here to inspiration and flat design. Okay, there are two links. This will take you to pages that talk about flat design. Oh, jeez. And we'll show you some samples of flat design. This is not really flat design. It's just a graphic. And then I also added a link to inspiration, because really, as far as we're concerned, no. Darn it. Inspiration is a very big thing when it comes to logo design. You know, you got to come up with some kind of inspiration, and inspiration can come from many different ways. And I think inspiration is incredibly important, but one of the things that in my mind is equally important is that you continue to master the programs that you are working with. We are going to be focusing for 4 weeks in this course on Adobe Illustrator, and it is my hope that between your efforts working in Illustrator and the stuff that I show you, I can improve your ability in this program, which is what I would really like to see happen. So again, I kind of would like to hear from you at different points, whether you think that's happening or not, okay?
Okay.
And then finally, design document questionnaire. Now, what's the design document questionnaire? Hold on for a minute. Let me go to my discussion here. All right, let me go to my discussion. Week 1 discussion, differentiating between a logo and a corporate identity. All right, now I know a few of you have already got your discussion started, which is very good. Thank you very much. But I just want to go down to one thing here. All right, so it talks about a logo. All right, and it's saying it's basically a visual representation of your business, which is correct. And then a little bit further down, it talks about, and I'm not reading the whole thing, but I'm going to go down to where it's talking about corporate identity. And what a corporate identity does is it's a method of applying something like a logo across the variety of marketing materials and products to ensure that all the products are consistent throughout. So that's really what corporate identity is all about. What governs that, or what makes that whole thing work ultimately, is what's known as a corporate identity or a branding manual. A manual are a set of rules that establishes the corporate identity principles that if look, we have Lester in the room, we got Teresa, we got Sean, and we got me. Let's say that we are all working on projects for the same company. Each one of us is working on a completely different project for the same company. What is going to make it possible for all of us who don't know each other but are working on different projects for the same company? What's going to make it possible for us to make all of those projects look like one person did it?
Branding manual with a set of rules to follow.
That's exactly right. So this is what this whole thing is about, understanding that there is elements to a large-scale picture, that corporate identity, by virtue of utilizing, establishing, and creating and using a branding manual, gives a designer or a series of designers a set of rules that they can use to make sure that there's consistency. And believe me when I tell you, this is a very important thing to a company. You're going to find that any good company that you start working at as a graphic designer, one of the first things that they're going to do is they're going to hand you a branding manual. And they're going to expect you to sit down and study the branding manual and keep it and use it. You can't just ignore it. You have to work with it. And it's your responsibility to respect that branding manual. It's kind of like your graphic design Bible. Okay? Now, somewhere in here, I don't know exactly where it is. Let's see here. Where are we at here? There we go. In approaching this task, what other pieces of information might you need from them? And when they're talking about from them, they're talking about the stakeholders. Have you ever heard of the term stakeholder?
Yes.
Good. A stakeholder is a particular person within a company that has interest in what you're doing as a graphic designer. Who is that, Sean talking?
Yeah.
Okay, Sean, so did I explain that well?
Yes.
Yeah. So essentially, when they're saying what information might you need from them to help you develop their logo, what information could these stakeholders give you that would help you develop their logo? That's a very important point, and that's why I'm actually speaking about it right now. Generally speaking, there will be a series of meetings between stakeholders and designers through the course of designing a logo. And we're just focusing on a logo. It could be any project. I mean, this happens with just about anything you do, whether you're doing a YouTube video for a particular thing, whether you're creating a, I don't know, some sort of a stationary piece of some sort, you know what I mean? Some kind of a package design. This kind of approach happens at all times. It just so happens that we're talking about the development of a logo, okay? So one of the things that I did for you was I created, or I didn't create it for you, but I actually produced this thing. Somebody that I met had this, and I thought it was a great idea, so I created one of my own. This is called a design document questionnaire, okay? And what this design document questionnaire is, it's a series of very simple questions that you would give to a series of stakeholders or people that you're working with on, like in this particular case, a logo. And I'm just going to quickly go through it a little bit. And I actually, just to go back to this for 1 second, let me go back over here real quickly. I know I'm jumping around and everything. I hope I'm not making you dizzy. But there's the design document questionnaire. And what I did was I attached a copy of this design document questionnaire for you so that you could have it, you could take a close look at it. But what it generally does is it generally gives the person who is filling it out the opportunity to feed you as the graphic designer information that will probably help you to focus your effort on creating the right thing for the person. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, so we've used a creative brief. So this is something that would go into the creative brief.
The creative brief actually is your proposal. That's what a creative brief is. In other words, a creative brief is you telling the stakeholders what you intend to do to get their feedback, to get their approval and feedback, correct?
So this is prior to that.
Yeah. Well, this is prior to that. This is
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, this is what this would be. Is this would be your prodding, so to speak. You're having them sit down in the quiet of their own space and putting some thoughts down for you that you could use. Now, it does a number of things. It obviously gives you information that's written down that you can refer to at any point. It also kind of protects you because if you go off in a particular direction based on something that's in here, the person may say to you, well, why did you particularly do that? And, well, I did it because on question number 4, you indicated such and such, and I took it from that. See what I'm saying? So you can't get everything down here because you can't give them a ton of this to do. But here are just some of the ones. Describe your company and the industry you're involved in. How does your company differ from others in the industry? What are your major concerns for your business and industry? Again, the person would write down whatever they feel they would like to put down in regards to this. And to be honest with you, very few people I've used this with have actually ever objected to doing it. Most of the times the people are more than willing to put some sort of thoughts down on this. So it isn't a bad plan, and it is something that's very preliminary. Well, what is the mission or purpose of the organization? See, again, these are questions that help you as a designer to kind of build an instant rapport with the business and the clients so that you know a little bit more about it than you did before you handed this document over to them. State your mission, if you have one, as well as any additional information. Who are your main competitors? Do they have similar projects? What do you like and dislike about their projects? That's a good question because, again, you know, there are people that they are competing with. And generally, there will be things that they're jealous about, that they like, and then there will be things that they think they're stupid for doing. And these kind of things can help you to avoid pitfalls. Does that make sense? What are the short-term goals? What are the main reasons? What are the project's long-term goals? Where do you think you need to be in 1 to 5 years? How do you measure success for the project? That's a big one right there. How are you going to measure success for this? You know, I mean, obviously, if I produce a logo design and the client likes it, well, that's a success. But that doesn't guarantee that somebody else outside of the business is going to like it. So how are they going to measure success for that project? What are they going to do to try to test that design? What are your scheduling requirements? That's a very important one because obviously you need to know what time frames you have to work with and when you need to get things done. And what are your reasons for that schedule? That's always a good thing because that might indicate whether there's any flexibility or not. Do you see where I'm going with this? Do you see the kind of questions I'm looking for? Do they make sense to you? Anyone?
Yeah, I got a question about what you were saying. Number 6 is a big deal, but the video that I watched in the course earlier this week, it said that your logo's isn't time sensitive. It's got to last for a long time. So how is that something measured? Because you can't project.
Well, you can run tests on individuals. You can bring people in and you can sit them down and you can show them different examples of the logo, and you can get their reactions to it. And based on the reactions to it, you can make decisions. So anything can be tested. Believe me when I tell you. And you're right, it has to be long term, but that is addressing a slightly different thing. When you talk about something that's long term, you're talking about taking something which is potentially a classic as opposed to something which is kind of a flash in the pan. Okay, a good example would be if there's a new type style which is very unique and unusual, a lot of people might gravitate to that type style. That's a problem because a lot of people would gravitate to something like that, and then suddenly it becomes very passé because you've got a lot of people copying it, and that type style is showing up all over the place. Whereas as a graphic designer, if you create a logo around something which is classically styled, and then you go in and modify it to make it unique, then that's something which is a one-off. Does that make sense? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. What is the project budget? Oh boy, there's one. This is definitely one that's important because again, you got to know what they want to spend, and you have to know whether you can get the job done on that scheduling for that price. And please list both financial limits and time commitment limits from your business towards this. In other words, you definitely do not want to go over budget unless they drive you over budget. Okay, if they drive you over budget, like for instance, you're doing things and they suddenly keep changing their minds on things, then it becomes their issue and not your issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these are important. What is your budget for maintaining the project? In the particular case of a logo, that particular question doesn't really make too much sense. But I leave it there because this is kind of a generic design document questionnaire. What specific information you want to be sure to include in your project. This is a very important thing because again, you know, these people deal with their product. They deal with their whatever it is, their service, whatever it is that they're dealing with, they deal with it daily. They have a very good idea of what their ultimate goals are. So whatever part of that you can get them to give you will definitely help you in designing anything, and especially something as time sensitive and long lasting as a logo. Do you have any specific graphics you wish to include in your project? A lot of times these guys have very sophisticated graphic libraries, and they may have images that they might want to give you that you can adapt. And I'm not saying that you would just, if in a logo especially, you wouldn't just take something that they give you, but you could extract or you could modify your design to include some aspect of a particular graphic that they have. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah, I have a quick question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
So as I'm in school right now, I've been asked a few times to do logos for small businesses. How do you decide on either doing charging by the piece or hourly? How do you differentiate between those two?
Well, I would say in your particular case, since you're starting out, and I've done this myself, if I feel that there's a relationship to be had, you know, I might be a little bit more flexible with people and give them a little bit more in the hopes that it will entice them to bigger and better things with me. So it really comes down to your particular needs and desires. I would say that if you feel that they're heading in the direction of a price, just make sure that the price you set is based on a time frame within your mind that you think you can meet. In other words, you don't want to say, oh, I'll give you this, I'll give you for $1,000, I'll give you this design, and then you find out that from a time standpoint, you're earning $5 an hour because you're putting so much time into it. You have to have realistic goal in mind before you can actually put some money into it. If the person is willing to work with you on an hourly contingent, someone like say $45 an hour, $20 an hour, whatever, you know, you then have to make a commitment of time to them. You can't just say, well, I don't know how long it's going to take me, but I want $20 an hour. Well, they're going to say, well, I'm going to give you open-ended $20 an hour. I mean, what if you're working on it next Christmas? You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
So you have to, it's a negotiation, and what you have to do is you have to understand your client a little bit, who you're talking to, what they're like, that's something that you'll learn as you go along. And be prepared to negotiate terms in terms of time and money. And how long do you think something like this is going to take? One of the good things that you would do, you would try to get as much information as possible. I would probably try to get them to give you parameters for the design as much as they can. You know, you're not asking them to design it, but you're asking for them to give you some parameters so that as a designer you can sort of mentally figure out where you're heading with this thing. Then you can kind of begin to figure out how much time it's going to take you to get there. Usually,
so after you finish this questionnaire, you kind of should have a good basic idea of how much
you
time.
should have some idea. Everything is part of a process. This whole thing is part of a process. And this is one of the very early things that you do. You give it to them for two reasons. Number one, to make you look like you know what you're doing. Number one, that's a very important thing. Number two, you give it to them because they're actually going to sit down and they're going to put some information in there. And that information is going to help you. Okay? And then, of course, it opens you up by having this information. It opens you up for sitting down with them and discussing some of this stuff where you can maybe extract some more information out of them, which you can put down in terms of notes. So you're beginning a process of getting some basic information from these people that will help you to determine what you're going to be doing when you create this logo and go through the process of comping it up, you know, sketching it out, comping it up, and the final production. All right?
All right. Thank you.
Now, this is a very important one, too. So, why will people be viewing your project? What will they take away from it? That's a very important one. What will they take away from it? When you're doing a logo design, you're trying to get something that people are going to take something away from. They're going to build an impression on it. It's absolutely critical. And that leads me right into here. Who are the intended audiences? Who do you plan on using or seeing your project? See how all these things relate. And this is all very important because, you know, if I was designing a logo for a 12-year-old girl, for something for a 12-year-old girl, my logo would probably be significantly different than something that would be directed more towards a 65-year-old man. You see my point?
Yes.
So all of these things, who will, you know, why will people be viewing this project? What will they take away from it? Who are the intended audiences? What do you plan on using or seeing? Who do you plan on seeing this project? All these things are kind of important. And these are things that your particular customer, the person that you're asking to fill this information out, they will have some ideas, some thoughts. You will get responses for this, and you'll find that it'll probably help you quite a bit because, again, it puts you in a position where you can now start to very realistically think about how you're going to approach creating this logo. Now, in our project, unfortunately, through the course of this 4 weeks, we don't have the ability to do this. We don't have anybody that we can get this information from. So, in effect, we're flying blind. Do you understand?
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it even more difficult for us because we're absolutely flying blind. We don't have a stakeholder that we can bounce stuff off. The only one that you got is me. The only thing that you got is me. I'm your stakeholder. I'm the person, and I can't fill out a design questionnaire for all of you. So I'm just going to have to do my best to, you know, hack away at what you do and see what we can come up with. All right?
Sounds good.
Yeah. What goals do you have for each of your intended audiences? What are the most important functions you wish to provide for each type of viewer? Again, these are all questions that really maybe don't sound too intuitive for a graphic designer, but you'd be amazed. Some of the stuff that they put down there can really help. What kind of customers do you cater to? Please describe each type of customer. See, if there's a multitude of different customers, you've got several different things that you have to deal with when you're dealing with your design. So again, the more you know, the better it's going to be for you. What services do you not provide now that your project can assist you with? All these questions are: what will a project content? Where will a project content come from? Who will be providing basic text? Well, now you see, when we're talking about basic text, we're talking about, you know, branding and standards stuff. okay, if any of those things exist. Now, if you're working on a company that has no branding and standards, one of the things that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to try to entice them into doing a branding and standards package. You don't want them to just create a logo. On the other hand, if you're working with a company that has a branding and standards manual, you're going to be creating a logo. I just want you to understand that unless they've decided that they're going to throw that branding and standards manual to the wind and recreate something entirely new, which they probably are not going to be doing, you're going to still be building your logo within the confines of that branding and standards manual, right? You understand that, right?
Right.
Yeah. So again, how often do you see your creative product needing updating? How do you plan to accomplish this? What did that video say to you? Basically, you know, these logos are meant to be long term, correct?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, but even so, this is still a legitimate a legitimate question. You know, how long do you want this thing to last? You know, how long are you hoping that this thing will last? And if this were if this project were a piece of magic where anything is possible, what would you like it to do? I just throw that question in because I think that question is a great question. It really gives these people the opportunity to put some stuff down that, like I say, what they come up with sometimes can really help you. So what do you think? You guys got any questions about this design questionnaire? Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, I like it. It's a good piece of information, seems like.
I've actually, like I said, I've actually provided it for you. You can have it and you could use it and do it with my blessing. All right, so let's see. I guess that's it for the announcements. As far as the discussions, do you have any questions about the discussions? My discussion, I have my discussion, and have you looked at mine yet by any chance? Mine is kind of generic. I kind of did a generic thing because I'm the instructor. I kind of talked more about is it logo or is it brand identity. I talked about. Now, I just wanted to point out a couple of things. You guys, this is a 200 level course, right? So you know you've all been. I'm going to close this. I don't need this thing anymore. Let me bring it back up. Yeah, so this is a 200 level course. A couple of things that I want to point out to you. Notice that I have a title. And I have DES-242-Logo and Identity Design, Bill Sweeney. I'd like you guys to start doing this. Start titling this professionally, okay? This is something that you need to do. If you didn't do it for the first one, I can live with that. But start doing it, guys. This is, you know, try to begin to come across as professional as possible. So when you're writing a paper, give me a title for the paper, and not just me. Give it, you know, from this point forward, give your instructors a title. Make sure that you put the course in, and make sure that you put your name in. All right, and then, you know, basically just go through the process of trying to answer the questions as best as possible. I did that. I added a reference. I actually physically added a reference in. What else did I do? I added some imagery, okay? I thought the imagery helped in the context of what I was trying to accomplish, so I put imagery into this thing. And then, of course, down at the end, see, and I even added bulleted points. I tried to do a lot of stuff in here to make this look like I knew what I was doing. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for you to, you know, to really show me that you know what you're talking about. And then, of course, make sure that you have a reference. I also included a link. And then I actually included this document, What is Branding? What is Branding is a document that was what I extracted some of my stuff from. So if you want to take a look at what is branding and look at it in a much more expanded way, that document there is where I got some of my information from. You got any questions about my piece there?
No.
No, you're okay with it?
Yeah.
Okay, everybody's good at this point?
Yes.
All right. So again, I got Tawana here. Let's see, I got Lori, and I got Nicole, and I got Lori. Okay, it's another Lori. So again, she's got week 1 discussion DES. So this is pretty good. I like that. That's all right. You need some titling up here, Nicole. Need some titling. I'm not going to hit you on the first one, but please, for next ones, please put in the titling and you know the name and all that stuff like I just told you. Tawana, it's the same thing with you. Yeah, and then also that's it. Okay, so those are the 4. There we go. Am I right? Any more? Yeah, this is it. Mark. That's okay. I'll live with that. Okay, so there we go. That's that. All right, so I guess I'm done here. What I want to do now real quickly is I just want to go through this very quickly. As I said, I am not one that utilizes PowerPoints a lot, but I thought this was a pretty good one. So, yeah, so I just wanted to show you this one particular one. Okay, so types of logo. There are different types of logo. Come on. Oh, geez. Why is this thing not going to go? There we go. There are 5 different types of logo marks you could create. There are, here I will briefly explain the 5 main types of logo. So there are very specific types of logo. The reason that I wanted to show you this is because you guys are going to be building logos. One of the important things I think for you to know is what the different basic logos are. Can anybody, before I even go into this, can anybody name any of the different types of logos that exist? Do you know any of them? It's okay if you don't, but I'm just wondering, does anybody that's in here know any of the 5 different types of logos that exist? Anybody?
I have nothing. I think I watched a video on a couple of them, but I can't remember what the titles were.
Okay. Well, that's why I'm doing this, because I want you to understand the different types so that when you start looking at logos, you can identify what they are, because they're different types of logos, and you're going to come across them, and you're going to be able to recognize what the different ones are. All right? All right, so symbol or icon. This type of logo represents a company in a simple but bold manner. This is a symbol or an icon, okay? A symbol or an icon. In most cases, the image is abstract and stylized to give visual interest. Most companies use this type of logo. Most companies that use this type of logo will have a very simple main logo. The human mind can easily remember a simple form much easier than a complex one. This also falls into the category of flat design. You'll be surprised. It's best to use a simple symbol or icon if you plan on building a large business. You probably recognize symbols. Now there's the Apple, the Shell, and the Mercedes-Benz. All 3 of these are symbols. That's what we're talking about. So now that you've seen those 3, you guys can envision many others that you've seen, correct?
Sure.
Okay, so that's one type of logo, a symbol. Now, again, you guys are going to build a logo. The reason I'm showing you this is because I want to give you some ideas as to what you could possibly do. What can you play with? What kind of things can you come up with? I want to give you the options so you can actually try examining those options and seeing if any of them can be made to work in the context of what you're doing. I am completely open to what you do. I will try to deal with, and this is important for you to understand, I will try to deal with whatever you give me, okay? I want you to succeed. I want you to do good with this. You give me an honest effort, and I'll try to help you get there, all right?
Yes.
The word mark. These are uniquely styled text logos that spell out a company name or a brand name. Many times, custom fonts are created specifically for brands to use across all of their marketing and branding collateral. Okay, now this is an alert, guys. This is something that I am going to tell you right now. Please do not just take a word in plain ordinary type and hand it to me as a logo. That is not a logo. That is not a word mark. That is essentially letters. Anybody can do it. The key to making a logo, and this is the important part of these points, uniquely styled text logos. Uniquely styled. So you need to do something to this. You can't just, you see the word mark right there? Can't just set the word mark and hand it to me. If you were going to go the word mark as a logo, you would have to take that and somehow uniquely style it. And I'm going to be showing you some things tonight and tomorrow night. I'll probably spend tomorrow night working completely in Illustrator, showing you all kinds of stuff. Tonight, I'm going to try to do a little bit of it too. But I'm going to do everything I can to show you a lot of different things that will help you to play around with text, because that's what I'm looking for you to do. Even if you don't succeed in the end, what I'm looking for is your play. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. I'm looking to see you play with this stuff, and I'm going to try to show you things that you can do to play with this stuff. So it's not like I'm just going to say play with this stuff and leave you in a hole. I'm going to show you things that you can try and you can learn, and then you can begin the process of playing. And after you've done this for as long as I've done this, all this stuff will be in your head, and you can actually sit down and you can just sort of start doing these things, and it'll be a lot easier for you. This is also an important point. Many times custom fonts are created. So what you've got is you've got very creative designers who will specifically create a custom font that belongs to that company. And it may resemble certain fonts, but it's completely unique, and it's only used in that particular company, okay? So that's the word mark. Also, a letter mark is the same thing. A letter mark, as opposed to a word mark, if I were going to do the word mark, see how it says the word mark there in yellow? If I was going to do the word mark as a letter mark, it would either be TWM or WM. You understand?
Yes.
Does that make sense? It's a letter mark. A letter mark would be initials, TWM, and the word mark is the word mark. Okay? You got that? There's word marks. There's Disney. Take a look at Disney. That's what I'm talking about. Disney created that particular stylized font. Sony, that font looks very much like a number of different slab serif fonts, but believe me when I tell you that that particular slab serif font is a font that was created for Sony. Do you know why that's called a slab serif font? Does anybody know?
Because the serifs are
slab-like. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, good guess. That's exactly it. That's a slab serif font. I'm saying these things because I'm hoping that I'll teach you some of this stuff that you don't know. Did you know that? You know what a slab serif font was before this?
I don't think I knew the definition, but I know what they kind of look like.
Yeah, and then of course Facebook's another one. You know, they've done some things to that, and it's probably a custom font. Some examples include obviously Facebook, Disney, and Sony. All right, so we've looked at two. Now the letter mark. Okay, so letter mark is what it was, TLM. Letter marks are exclusively typographic. Letter marks actually can be a lot of fun, and they can be really challenging because letters either match up with one another and work beautifully or they don't. Okay, I try to do letter marks every time I create a logo. I try to use letter marks because letter marks are so challenging. They don't always work out for me, but I try to do them every time because when they work out, they can be really cool. All right, so I'm just pointing this out to you because it's a very legitimate way to go. Letter marks are exclusively typographic. They use a symbolic representing the company through the use of its initials or the brand's first letters. Many companies choose this type of logo design because their initials better graphically illustrate the company than the full name. Okay? HP. See how they did this now? Okay? Calvin Klein, or Chanel, I'm sorry, and General Electric. So you see what they've done. They've created, but notice that the only one that's a true letter mark is the Chanel. Yeah, this one here is what's known as a combination mark. Do you know why I'm calling it a combination mark?
Because it's not just typographic.
Yeah, it's got a shape involved in it too. Very good. This is also a combination mark because it has the letters, but it also has this visual element that is a part of the letter mark. Okay? So all three of them are letter marks, but they also are combination marks. I'm not trying to confuse you. What I am actually trying to do is I'm actually trying to teach you the significance of the differences. Okay? Here, combination marks combine a word mark with a symbol or icon to give the flexibility for the user of either or both elements across the variety of applications. A well-designed combination mark could work just as well within the elements separate as it does with them together. So if you do a combination mark, the element that you create could work well as a symbol. Okay, do you understand? Combination mark is a combination of text with a symbol. You got that?
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to make sure you know what it is. So combination mark is text and a symbol. Hawaiian Airlines, Adidas, and Sprint. Okay? All of these elements that you see here are flat graphics. Okay? Now, why I say they're flat graphics is if you take a look at them, you've got this sort of like, I don't know, I guess this Sprint thing, this sort of wing kind of effect, very flat in its appearance, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, look at the Adidas. Very flat, isn't it? And even though there's some beautiful detail on this Hawaiian Airlines thing, all its little graphics are flat, aren't they? Yeah. So, flat graphics. These are things that I want you to be aware of as well. Okay? Any questions about any of this? The emblem. All right, I have had the opportunity to do several emblems. And as a matter of fact, after I get done with this, I'm going to show you some of the logos that I've done. I haven't done any recently, or I got a couple that I did recently, about a year or so ago. But I did some several years back that are very elaborate, and they fall into the classification of an emblem. An emblem logo encases the company name within the design, okay? So these are emblems. So you see how these things become almost like the kind of graphic you'd expect to see on a garment, correct? But these are logos. They're just emblem logos. Okay? So I got a question for you guys. After you've seen these different types of logos, can you see that there are significant differences between the three of them, or between the five of them?
Yeah, oh yeah.
And now that you've seen all five of them, do you think you could better remember and be able to define a logo by what it is if someone shows you a random logo?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So that's what I really wanted to point out. That's why I chose to show this PowerPoint. Again, it's not a PowerPoint. I don't show PowerPoints in my classes very often. I like to spend more time working, but this one I thought was really a good one. The well-designed logo. A logo is the visual representation of a company or brand's values, beliefs, and function. A well-designed logo can create loyal followers through simplicity and memorability. When designing your logo, you need to make sure it will represent the business the right way. All of those things that we're talking about here, the visual representation, the well-designed logo, simplicity and designing a logo, you make sure it represents a bit. All of these things can be achieved through the use of the information that you're given through that design document questionnaire. Do you believe that?
I would agree.
Yeah. So in other words, if you really take a look at the questions that were generated and prepared for that person to fill out the information on, you probably could find a lot of the stuff that you need to achieve these goals right in that document questionnaire. Or it would be at least the beginning, the jump off point where you could then, go in and actually, press the stakeholder further about what he meant by this and get the information that you need. There are many considerations. How the logo will look on products. See, now here's the other thing too. This is where it really becomes important because number one, these logos, once they're created, they just don't sit there. They actually get applied all over the place. Different sizes, think about it. Different sizes, different techniques. Your logo is going to have to be created in numerous different file formats. You're going to have to be creating PNGs, JPEGs. You know what those are, right? You know what a PNG is, PNG?
It's a type. I'm not sure what type of file it is, but it's a type of file.
Yeah, it's a file that's a web-based file or a media that has to do with presentation on some sort of a monitor or a screen. PNG, just like a GIF is, okay? So those the difference between a GIF and a PNG is a GIF has a background transparency capability, whereas a JPEG does not. You don't get transparent backgrounds with a JPEG, but you do with a PNG. An EPS or a PDF, you know what they are, right? You may not know what an EPS is. You know what an EPS is, an encapsulated PostScript? You know anything about print?
No.
No? So an EPS, an encapsulated PostScript, is a graphic format that you prepare a piece of artwork from Adobe Illustrator that's going to go into a program like Adobe InDesign. So if you're a graphic designer creating a logo, at some point you're going to have to supply different logos for different purposes to your client. And one of the formats that you're going to have to create is a PDF format, portable document file, and the other one will be an EPS. I tell you this because it's ultimately down the road part of what you're going to need to understand and know. How it will tie in with your other branding and collateral, how it will tie your other branding and collateral together. The thoughts and emotions someone feels when you see your logo. Certain colors, shapes, styles, and words all trigger emotional responses, which will translate into an emotional response to your business. Believe it or not, I have links to pages of online documents that talk about the psychology of color. And it goes into great depths. Believe me, there has been millions and millions and millions of dollars spent on all this stuff, and it's all on the web. And if you're really interested in learning about all this stuff, you could go in and look up psychology of color, and you could go in and it could tell you all kinds of stuff about how people think and feel when it comes to color. It's actually very fascinating. I'm not going to throw all this stuff at you because we don't have the time for all of it, but I do want you to be aware of it. You know what I mean? That's why I want to bring it up at least, okay? So you'll forgive me if I do this stuff?
Totally.
Yeah.
Which one are you going to choose? So there's my question to you. Which one are you going to choose? You have 5 there. Which one do you think you're going to use? I'm not asking the question. I'm asking you to consider which one do you think you're going to use. I would keep a very open mind to this and realize that there's a purpose for each. One of the reasons that I supplied you with this PDF, or I'm sorry, this PowerPoint, was so that you could actually go back in and reference it and take a look at it and make sure that you fully understand the different types. Because when you go in and start creating your designs, I want you to have the ability to choose which way you want to go with this. And I want you to have the flexibility of knowing there's more than one way to go. Okay? To me, it's very important that you know as much as you possibly can before you actually begin your work. And I'm doing my best to try to help you with that. Are we good so far?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Instructions. Choose a business. Well, I'm not going to go these. You know what to do with that. That's it. Okay. So there we go. All right. Any questions about this? I put it aside if not. Good?
Good.
Okay. Like I said, you have it in there. All right. So now the next thing. So let me see. I got the logos right there. What's this? This is okay. There's the assignment, and we start that. All right. Yeah. All right. So the next thing I want to do is I wanted to bring up some of my work. This is some of the things that I did. Now, this Seaside solution is actually a branding logo for a line of cleaning solutions for ships, for boats. This was a company up in New Hampshire, and the company produced cleaning supplies, soaps and polishes and waxes and stuff for nautical. And the name was Seaside Solution is actually the logo. Now I did not create the Seaside Solution logo. That's the actual logo that they had. What I did was I created this piece of art for the packaging. This was done in Illustrator, okay? This one here was also for a company up in New Hampshire, Hampton Station. What it was basically, it was an actual train station which was decommissioned a long time ago, and it was turned into a landmark. And what they wanted was, and what kind of a logo would you call this?
Combo.
Wouldn't it be an emblem?
Oh, yes.
See, it's more like it's combo, yeah, because you have Hampton Station, but if you look at the way it's configured, the way it's shaped up, it's basically an emblem. So anyway, this was an element that I created, a logo that I created. I actually, now that I look at this, something's missing. This should be green over here. This is red and this one's green. Somehow or other, I lost that piece. But anyway, there's an emblem that I created for Hampton Station. Again, this is done in Adobe Illustrator, and a reason these things get done in Adobe Illustrator is because this would be used in numerous situations for signage and stickers and any and everything that they could possibly imagine using this on. So really, you would need something that would be very flexible. So doing it in Illustrator, and again, any logo should be done in Illustrator. It's not just the more fancy ones, it's all of them, okay? Now these are a series. This is very similar to what we're working on. You're going to be preparing for me. Now the initial ones that you're going to do are black and white, right? You're not going to be doing colored yet. Am I correct?
Right.
Yeah. So what I'm looking for you to do is I'm looking for you to come up with black and white versions. But what I wanted you to see here in this particular one is this is a series of logo. And by the way, this one here with I modified this text down here. The Firmawood cabinetry, we chose a different font. This was the one that they chose. These others were just ones that I did alternate. And I also have another one down here. And this is the color library that we chose. Those are the colors that we chose. Okay? So what I did basically was I created the logos in black and white, and then I took my color library, which I basically prepared for them, and I applied the colors as I felt they needed to be applied to the individual pieces. And I gave them samples. And here's the second group. Those are all the different logos that I created for them. And as I say, in the end, this is the one that they picked. They did ask for, I think the font was something more along the lines of that. I think they had something a little similar. They didn't like the way that font looked. So we went to a sans serif font, but it did the same thing. It wrapped around the bottom like that. So there's another logo. And then this is WoodTech. This is the same company. And this will give you an idea of another aspect of designing a logo. When you're working with a logo like WoodTech, you have your color logo, which there's this kind of a grayish color, and then there's this orange color and black. So this is actually a 3-color logo. Then the logo would also probably be used in black and white. So in this particular case, I did an all black version, and I also did an all white version. So there's again, as a logo designer, as a person who designs graphics this way, there's a lot of stuff that you have to think about down the road. Now again, I will tell you that they're asking you to create your logos in black and white, and I think that's a great idea. As far as I am concerned, whenever I work on any kind of graphic at all, this is just something that I've learned from day one. Whenever I start working on a particular design, I always work it out in black and white. And I have a very specific reason for doing that. When I build something in black and white, if it works in black and white, it's going to work 10 times better in color. That's the way I feel about it. Sometimes when you build something in color and you go back in and you try to make it black and white, you find out it doesn't work too well. Have you ever had anything like that happen to you?
Oh, yeah.
So really, one of the first things that I learned as a graphic designer, going way back from art directors that I worked with, was that it's always a good idea to begin the process of developing anything in black and white, and then eventually, migrate into color. Okay? Here are a series of designs that I did for Brewhouse. And again, these are very complicated, I guess you would call them combo marks, very complicated combo marks. See, now some of them are very complicated and some of them are very simple. So it really comes down to the, again, to try to come up with one thing that's unique and different. All of these, though, were produced in Adobe Illustrator. Okay, and this thing here, do you see the little bubbles back there? That's the actual beer.
Yeah.
Okay, that actually was a photograph of beer.
I was going to say, I was wondering how you did that.
It's a photograph of beer, but there's a trick. Here's the thing that you have to understand. In order for this thing to be resolution independent, if it were a bitmap of a photograph of a piece of beer, it would have to be ginormous, and it's just not practical. You can actually take a bitmap and you can go into Illustrator and you can trace the bitmap. That is a vector. Yep, that is a traced bitmap. It's a piece of vector art. It's converted to vector art. Now, let me ask you a question. You're looking at this right there. Can you tell?
No, I mean, I kind of...
Now that I've told you.
Sure, I anticipated that it was, but I thought you created it. So now knowing that it's a photo, it's
actually a photo that, in this particular case, I traced and I turned it into vector work. So it now is resolution independent, meaning that if they chose this particular logo, I could make it any size that I want, and it would always look great. So, you know, again, these are the things that I want you to understand. That's why I talk about it, so that you know it exists and, you know, be prepared to work on it when you learn these things. Here's my next version. And again, this is just me taking several basic elements and just playing around with the arrangement of them to come up with variations, to see whether any of these variations the customer likes. Okay? And here's another one.
I really like that one.
Yeah. And here's another one. So I actually did 4 different versions on this, and I think this was my favorite too. I think it's and see, again, flat design. Okay, everything here is flat design. I do, the only one that is really not flat design is this one right here. This one is a step outside of flat design, and where that step is that picture. That picture becomes not flat design. You know what I'm talking about when I say flat design. Everything is just sort of flat graphics, very simple and yet very elegant.
What did they choose one of these?
No, I'm not. No, I'm still in the process, so we're still working on it.
Nice.
Now here's the MSI logo, and this is the actual logo. It's 2-color. This is just the black version. This is actually a blue. Okay, and how I did this, literally, I might actually, tomorrow night, if I have the time, I may show you how I did this. I actually started with a circular shape, and I started with a rectangular band, which I modified so that it was thick on one end and thin on the other, and then I just repeated it all the way down, and I divided the whole thing up and removed everything but the part that I wanted to keep, like this, and then I divided it up into the MSI, and I end up with that. I could show you how to do that tomorrow night if I get a chance. I'll show you how to do it.
Nice.
Because this is the kind of thing, what I want you to understand is, in my demonstrations, I'm trying to show you how to do things that will introduce you to some new stuff you don't know about the program and give you some options that you can play with when it comes down to creating some kind of a logo. This one is a very simple one. It's just basically a round shape that I modified so that it looks a little bit more plate-like, and then I rendered a couple of a spoon and a fork, and then I have type on a path, Cafe Deli. And it's the same with this. This one here, I rendered stars, and you know when you make your star, that's what the star looks like. When you hold down the Option key or the Alt key, I believe it is, you get the flag star. Did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah, this is the regular star. That's what the regular star looks like. But if you make your star holding down the Option or Alt key, what it does is it creates this nice flag star. So I actually created the flag stars made in America, and then I just did the banner, and then I made what's known as a clipping mask. Have you ever heard of a clipping mask?
Yes.
Yeah. You ever made one?
I was going to say that with the MSI, you could do the clipping mask too.
Yeah. And then here, this is another a letter mark. And as you can see, this is what I finished with this one because this one illustrates a very important point. there's a difference between taking a T and an S and sitting them side by side and saying it's a letter mark, and taking the T and the S and making them work together to create a letter mark. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, that's my point. My point is what I'm looking for you to do is to try to be experimental. I'll do my best to show you some things that will help you to be a little bit more experimental, but that's what I'm looking for you to do. Challenge yourself and to come up with some stuff. I'll show you how to do some of this stuff at any rate, and hopefully that'll help. Okay, so I've shown you what I want to show you here. Are there any questions or any thoughts or anything you want to say before we move on?
No.
Nope.
You're all good?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody getting intimidated?
No.
No? You're happy?
I could be a little intimidated.
Well, I'm going to see if I can change that a little bit. All right, so let me get this out of here and let me open this up. Okay, so this is where we're going to end tonight. We're going to end up here a little bit. All right, so what I have here is, first of all, inspiration. Okay, inspiration. Now, what do I mean by inspiration? What I'm thinking you should do is what I do. Go out and try to get inspired by something. Okay, now I have a link over here. Let me see if I can get this link. See if I can get that. I think it's locked. Hold on for 1 second. Where are my layers? There we go. Yeah, let me get this thing selected if I can. Come on. Oh, man, what the heck? Why am I not getting it? What's going on with that thing? Hold on. Object, unlock all. Oh, there you go. That's what it is. I had it locked. Okay. Let me get this selected. Everything but what I want to do. Here we go. I got it now. There we go. Let me copy this. Oh, come on. Copy. Okay, let me go to here, and let me see if I can get this to come up. Control V. There we go. I think this is it. All right. Got it. All right, so here we go. Inspiration. All right, inspiration. What I think, I might have actually put this in. This is what I want to show you. See how we got green, and see what they did with the bag? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's what I'm talking about. When I say to you that you create a logo, this logo is just basically the word green bags, okay? And yeah, they instead of saying BAGS, they put BAGZ, so that's a little bit different. But what they did was they actually took that A and they turned that A into a bag, okay? Very simple, but that's what I'm talking about when I say to you, I'm looking for your creativity. When you come up with a design for something, don't just send me the word green bag, GREENBAGS. Don't just do that. Come up with something clever. That's what I'm talking about. Inspiration. So what I did here was I came in here. Now I believe I have this. I believe this is the link that I have under Flat Art, 80 plus fantastic flat logo designs for your inspiration. Flat design is taking the world by storm since Microsoft introduced Windows Phone and Windows 8. Most designers were against this trend, but within a few years, everyone started to love flat design. There are still some skeptics, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to let you read the whole thing because it goes on and on and on, but it's very interesting. And what's great about this is I believe flat design is something that you can do. I believe that you can actually accomplish some really miraculous looking flat art stuff if you make the effort to do it. Use your creativity, think about what it is you're trying to achieve, and visually put it together in a flat art style. What I want to do is I just want to show you a little bit of this and say to you that inspiration can come from this stuff, okay? Now, I'm not going to be bringing any of these things up. I have a couple that I chose. See all these little things? All flat design. Here we go. Okay, now what I did was I actually took this and I actually recreated this, and I'll show it to you. And then what I did was I built a a letter. I made a letter design, a letter logo, you know, from this particular concept. So you'll see this show up shortly when I get in and show you my work. There's another one, Bull City. Okay. You can see that even though this one's getting pretty complicated, if you take a look at some of my come back over to here, see how these things are flat? These are flat. These are flat designs. This one's not, but those are flat designs. See that? See? Flat design. And there's like, I don't know, 60 of them. I did one like this. I'll show you that. And I'm going to be working on this stuff tomorrow night a lot more. I'm just showing you some stuff now. See? But you can go through this and you can take a look at this. This isn't the only site that talks about this, but I just wanted you to take a look at this because there's an awful lot of stuff in here that you can get some really great ideas from. And it's all basically this wonderful flat design that I think you'd probably be able to handle. Okay? So there you go. I'm absolutely sure that I have this link for you in one of my announcements. So here is my version of the flat design. Okay, I actually recreated this from that. Now, what I want to do is I want to show you how to do a little bit of this. Do you think any one of you think you know how this is done?
My guess would be pen with the pen tool somehow.
You'd be surprised. Watch what I'm going to do. So the most important thing, one of the most important things is my layers panel. So let me bring my layers panel up here. Okay, so I have my original layer, and then I have layer 2. I'm going to lock both those layers because I'm going to create a new layer to work on. Okay, so this layer 3 is going to be the layer that I'm going to work on. Okay, now, in order to recreate this, I'm not worried about the circle. I'm not worried about the shadowing, all that stuff. All I'm trying to do is to figure out how this thing gets done right here. That's what I'm looking for. And as you can see right there, I succeeded in doing it, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we're going to do it right now. And then what I'm going to do is, okay, MAG. See, you have MAG over here, Metropolitan Art Gallery. I thought I would start off to see whether I could maybe in some way utilize this for this. And this is what I came up with so far. And it's a good first effort, but I think I need to go a little bit further with it. So I'm going to probably, because I like this, I think I'm going to probably develop this. So what I want to do is, and again, I'm going to be working on, I also have this stuff to show you too. I'm going to show you all this tomorrow night. I don't think I'll have time tonight to do all of this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to start off by doing this tonight, and I'll see where I end up. But I'm going to be showing you how to do some of this stuff. I also want to show you a little bit more about this. All right, this is the actual MasterCard, and as you can see, I recreated the MasterCard here, and you may be surprised at how I did this. And then here's flat design. I recreated that logo. Now, of course, I didn't have the ability to make a tricolored gradient background, but I was able to create a background, and I want to show you how this works. So, but what I want to do is I want to start off with this. Okay, so I'm going to start off with this. So I'm on layer 3, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off by getting my my ellipse tool, and I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to drag out a circle, holding down the Shift key. I'm going to make a circle. And I'm holding the Shift key down to constrain it to a circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I hold down the space bar, you know where the space bar is, right? You know the space bar?
It's usually the hand, I thought.
No, the space bar. Yeah, but I got my tool selected, my oval tool selected, and I'm holding down the Shift key, and that means I can continue to drag that circle. See what I mean? I still got the mouse holding down in that shape. I'm holding the space bar down. That enables me to move that shape. You understand what I'm doing?
Nice.
Okay, so now I've moved that shape basically where I want it. I let go of the space bar. I can adjust that shape, hold the space bar again, and move it over slightly again. And I think I've got that pretty much to the size that I want. Okay, so you see my circle?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm letting go of the space bar, and I'm letting go of the mouse, and I'm letting go of the shift, and I have a circle that has a fill of black and no stroke. All right? So, are you with me?
Yes.
Okay, not confusing in any way so far, right?
No.
Okay, I'm going to swap it. I now have no fill, and I have a stroke of black. Now, the problem I have with this is the stroke of black is a little bit too small. So I'm going to start off by coming over here, and I'm in the stroke panel, and I could actually do it up here, I think. Yeah, I could actually do it there. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to come up here. This is my properties bar at the top, right? And I'm going to click on this 1, 2, 3. I think 3 is enough. No, actually 4. So I got it set to 4. Okay? So now if I deselect this, see what I got. You think you could do that?
Yes.
All right, no problem, right?
Yeah, you're going to build a whole thing with shapes.
Yep, you bet your butt. Watch this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to select this guy. And right now I've got the bounding box on there. You know the bounding box, right? It's that thing right there. See it?
Yep.
Okay, I don't like the bounding box. So if I go to the view menu and I go hide bounding box, I get that, which is a lot easier. At least it is for me. Because I'm an old guy, and, I'm getting kind of dumb in my old age, so I like things to be a lot easier. All right, so now I just got this. So do I need this whole circle? No, I don't. So I happen to know that hidden behind the eraser tool, okay, you guys know what the eraser tool is, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can erase stuff. Hidden behind the eraser tool is a tool called the scissors tool. Have you ever used the scissors tool?
No.
I don't think correctly.
Well, here you're going to learn how to use it. So what you do with the scissors tool is you come over here and you go on any anchor point. You don't even have to be on an anchor point. You can cut anywhere you want. But I want a half a circle. I want a clean half a circle. So the easiest way to do it is to come right up to that anchor point right there, sit on top of it. Make sure you're right on top of that anchor point and click. And now I have cut that point. And you know how I can tell I've cut the point? Because I can see these control arms come out. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm still using the scissors tool. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to very carefully sit over top of that anchor point. And now you see what's happened? Can you see that this side here is not selected? That side is selected?
You son of a gun.
And I've cut it. And now I'm just going to hit delete. And I have half a circle. Okay?
Oh my goodness.
Now, it gets better. Watch this. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit because I want you to see this. This is pretty slick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this thing up. Now, what I have here is I have a stroke. Okay? I have a stroke. And believe me when I tell you, there isn't a whole heck of a lot you can do with a stroke. You're kind of stuck. What I want to do is I want to turn that stroke into a basic shape because, to be totally honest with you, a stroke can easily become a basic shape. And once it becomes a basic shape, it'll become a curved rectangle. And once I turn it into a curved rectangle, I can do some incredible stuff with it. So I've got it selected. I'm going to go to the object menu because that's in fact what it is. It's an object. I'm going to go to the object menu. I'm going to go down to where it says path, right? And I'm going to choose outline stroke. Have you ever done that before?
Yes.
There we go. Now check it out. What I have is a curved rectangle. The actual stroke has changed into a shape. Now what I want to do is I want to make this go all the way over to here, and I want this to go all the way over there. Now, I could do that by creating another shape like this, okay, holding down the shift key, and I could put a black stroke on it. I don't want to do that, okay, because it's just too much work. So I'm going to delete that. I got a better way to do this. I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to get my Add Anchor Point tool. Now, this is where the pen tool comes in, and I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit so that you can really see what I'm doing here. I'm going to get my Add Anchor Point tool, and I'm going to come over here onto that shape, and as close as I can to that end, to that corner point, I'm going to click, and I'm going to add another point. I'm going to do the same thing right here. I'm going to come over very close, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to add a point. So do you see what I've done? I've added 2 anchor points right there. You see what I did?
Yes.
You understand what I'm doing?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now watch this. I have these tools here. That's the direct selection tool right there, and that's the group selection tool. Now, I don't know whether you know how to do this or not, but I'm going to close these things. To get these things out, you click on this, and you come over here to that little tear off. Do you see a little tear off right there?
Mm-hmm.
And you click on that tear off, and now they're out, and you can bring it over there. Did you know that?
I didn't.
You can do it again over here. Tear off. And now you can bring them out, and you got them right close by you. So what I've done is I've come in here. I've added 2 anchor points next to the 2 anchor points on the end. The reason that I've done this is if I were to just take that corner point with the direct selection tool, click on it to select it in a direct way. I've selected that one point. If I didn't put that point right there to stop it, then this whole thing would go wacky on me. By adding that anchor point, it only stops, it only makes the line move from that anchor point over, and I'll get a straight line. Did I explain that okay?
Yes.
All right. Now I'm going to hold the shift key down, and I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom one. I'm going to click on that bottom one carefully. Now, I have these 2 anchor points are not selected. The ones next to them are. You with me?
Yeah.
You're just going to blow my mind.
Yeah. Now watch this. I'm going to move this over so that you could see this. And I'm just going to go over to my right arrow key. You know the arrow keys in the lower right-hand corner? I'm going to use the left arrow key. And I'm just going to move that thing over, and I'm going to create, what do you think of that?
That's pretty sweet.
And I just keep it going until I get it where I want it. Come on, guys. Do you think you could do this?
This would have been helpful like 6 months ago.
Well, I mean, is there anything there that you can't do?
That's pretty nice.
Right? All right. Let's go and let's do the bottom one. Let's go to the bottom one now. Let's do the same thing at the bottom. Same exact thing. All I'm going to do is get the Add Anchor Point tool, come over here, and very close to that one, I'm going to click and place another point. Very close to the other one, I'm going to click and place a point. Oh, I missed the line. You got to hit the line. Not a big deal. There we go. Get my direct selection tool. The main difference is the direct selection tool will click and select an individual point, whereas the regular selection tool selects everything. The group selection tool with the plus selects an object that's been grouped in with other objects. The direct selection tool is what you want for this, because you want to select that point, hold the shift key down, select that point right there. Oh, come on. And then left arrow key, bring it right on over until it hits right about there. That's probably pretty good right there. Okay, let's go to the view menu, and let's fit artboard and window, and let's see what we got. Look at that. It makes it look easy, right?
Yes.
All right. So let's continue building this thing. So what are we going to do next? We're going to create that circle right there. Let me create that other circle right there. So what we're going to do is go back in and get your ellipse tool and come over here and create the circle holding the shift key down. And the important thing to understand is as long as I hold the mouse down, I can continue to maneuver this circle as much as I want, okay? And then if I want to move the positioning of the circle, while holding the mouse down, hold the space bar down, and look, I can move that circle anywhere that I want. And I'm going to move the circle till it's right about here, something in that neighborhood right there. Let go of the space bar, make it a little bit bigger. I'm going to adjust it make it a little bit bigger again and adjust it. And I think I'm about where I want it to be. I think that's probably good enough right there. And then I'm going to change it from a fill to a stroke. And we're talking about 4, right?
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so there's my 4. Now, what we want to do again with this is
Give it on 5.
we want to make it half. So once again, what we're going to do is we're going to get the scissors tool, and we're going to come over here, and we're going to click on that point right there, and we're going to click on that point right there. And then we're just going to get the regular selection tool, click on that, and hit delete. And then this thing here is going to have to move up a little tiny bit. And I think,
You have your stroke on 5, not 4.
yeah, I think that's what it is. Let's make it 4. Oh, wrong way. There we go, 4. Okay, and then it's got to come out just a slight bit, come down a little bit. We've got to try to line it up, get it about right. This is where it gets a little tricky. Sometimes what you got to do with this is you got to come in here and you have to zoom in a little bit, and then you have to maneuver it and get it to about where it should be. That's probably pretty good. I'd probably go a little bit further over. Sometimes it's hard. You know what? Let me do this. Select it. Okay. And go to Object, Path, Outline Stroke. Now I have a shape that I can actually manipulate pretty well. Let me get it over to about there. That's probably pretty good. That'll do. I think that'll do. You get the general idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's come up a little bit, and you'll notice that this thing here comes over to about there. So what I'm going to do is come in here, and I'm just going to add a couple of anchor points, and one to here, okay? And then with the direct selection tool, click on that, hold the shift key down, and click on that, and then just, this time I'm using the other arrow, the right arrow, and I'm just going to bring that thing over until I get to about there, okay? Let's go View, Fit Artboard and Window, and we have that much so far. Okay, what do you think? Now, I mean, I'm a little bit off, but you get the general idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, now, this is really just a matter of creating a couple of straight lines, really. This is just a matter of creating a straight line, holding down the Shift key, and just dragging a straight line to about there, and putting a black stroke on it, no fill, and just a black stroke, and make it 4. That's it. Really simple. And then edit copy, edit paste in place, and then just move it down, move it over and down until you get to the point where you want it, right about there. And then come here, select, this is the easiest way to do it, is just click on the direct selection tool, bottom arrow, and then up arrow it until it gets to where you want it to be, which is somewhere around here, right? This is not hard, is it?
No.
And then click on this guy, and then just, whoops. Now, in the end, what I would do, I haven't done it yet, get that into position. That's probably close enough, okay? Now, you would do the same thing here. You would take this, and I'm going to show you a different way to do this. So I would come in here, and I'd click, and I would drag all the way over to here, all the way over to there, okay? And now I have that whole thing all the way over to there, okay? Now, the problem is that I have this thing here, which is a graphic shape. This, which is a graphic shape, that's a stroke, that's a stroke, that's a stroke. So I got a mixed bag of things. That's not what I want. So what I want to do is I want to come up with a proper arrangement of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shift select this to include that into the selection. Shift select that. Go to the object menu, go to path, and outline the strokes. I now have all graphic shapes. Okay? Now, the only thing that I got to do here to make this thing look right is I have to break the line here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a basic shape, just like this. Come in here and create a basic shape, just like that. And then I'm going to take that basic shape and I'm going to put that basic shape like right over here. Right over there. And I might move it back just a touch. Yeah, there we go. And I am going to click on this. Okay. And I could probably use this tool right there. All right. But I think I'll stay with my Pathfinder tools. Okay. And let's see if I delete that. There we go. Perfect. See that?
Yes.
Okay, now let's go View, Fit Artboard in Window. Let me do this. Let me hide the original and deselect that. Look what I got. What do you think?
Nice.
Now, keep in mind one thing. These are all individual pieces, aren't they? That's an individual piece. That's an individual piece. That's an individual piece. I want one logo, don't I? So I'm going to select the whole thing. I'm going to go to shape mode, or I could use this tool over here, and I could just click on this one, which is Unite, and now you see what I got is one piece.
Nice.
Yeah. Now if I bring this back, I can take this guy, move it over to here, and I can change it to white, and delete that, and now I have that. There is my shape. What do you think? Does that look like that?
Yeah, what'd you do for the rounded edges?
The rounded corners?
Rounded corners.
Well, actually, if I was going to make those rounded corners, I'd have to go Edit, Undo. Let's go Edit, Undo, Undo, Undo. Hold on. Undo, Undo, Undo. Let me see if I got it back. I do. Okay, so let's see. The rounded corners are there and there. Okay, so what I would have to do for the rounded corners is click on this and go Object. Let's see here. Ungroup. All right, let's see now. If I click on this guy here, if I go to my stroke panel, I can change this thing to, oh, you know what? I can't do it now because it's still, hold on, Edit, Undo. Edit, Undo, Subtract. Edit, Undo, Move. Undo, move, hold on, edit, undo, rectangle, outline stroke. Okay, there we go. All right, so what I want to do to get the rounded is this. I want to click on that, and I want to click on, I can't do it on this one because I'd have to go all the way back and do it. So I won't do it on this one, but I'll do it on this one. And I want to go rounded. Okay, so there, I've got my rounded. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select all three of these guys. All right, select them. Come on, you. There we go. And select that. And now we'll go Object, Path, Outline Stroke. There we go. Now, I need to get rid of that round right there, and I need to get rid of that right there. So, again, come in here, and I will create that nice little shape just like that, right? Okay, and I will move that shape right down to here. Okay, like that. Click on that and go to Pathfinder and minus front. Boom, there we go. And I actually should have copied it first, so I'm gonna have to make it again. Make my little shape here, like that. Come over here, click on that, bring it over to here. Come on, you. There we go. And I think I got it. No, it's not. It's not going to not be. It's got to be bigger. Let's see here. Where are we at? Where are you? Let me just delete it. Actually, view. Let's go to bounding max. Bounding box. Here we go. Gotta get over. Oh. Hold on, got to grab it right. Come on, you. Ooh, this thing's really being a pain. There we go. Oh, jeez. I got to zoom in. There we go. There we go. Okay, let me try it now. Okay, let's try it again. Try it now. There we go. I want that over there. There we go. Okay, click on that, and shift-click that, and then minus front. Boom, there we go. View, fit artboard and window. There we have it. If I hide that, there is your rounded corners. This one here, I would have had to do that before. Now I noticed that I got a couple of weird things happening here, but I can fix that. You see that what I'm talking about? See the weirdness? Oh, actually, it's not there. Once you get up close on it, it isn't really there. No, it's not really there. All right. So now that I did this, let's see here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of this thing, and now what I'm going to do is combine it into one piece. And now if I go View, Fit Artboard and Window, there it is. Okay,
nice.
Back. There it is. I'll move it over to there. And oops, I missed one. Yep, I can fix that by just grabbing that piece and then combining that as well. There we go. I got it. Okay, so did I confuse you?
No.
Oh, good. There we go. There. Okay. There it is. Now, 8:50. I got 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to work on this. Tomorrow night, what I want to do is I'm going to work on this. I'm going to show you how I did this. Okay? And it's basically the same idea as this. All right? Now, the reason that I want to go through the process of doing this again for you is to make sure that you're absolutely certain how I did it, so that if you decide that you want to play around with something like this, you have no trouble doing it. Okay? Do you guys got any questions about anything?
No.
No? How did I do with this? Did I do it slowly enough and easy enough for you? I didn't, rush through it and make it confusing, did I?
No.
No? You're good?
Yep.
Great. I love it. Okay, so what I did here, all right, and again, I got these layers locked. So I'm on layer number 3. All right, now actually what I think I'm going to do is, I'm going to unlock that layer. Yeah, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this mag. You know what? No, I'm not. I think I'm just going to ignore it. Let me lock it. I was going to maybe draw over it. I started doing this. Today. This is the one that I started doing today. So what I'm going to do is delete that. And I'm going to lock that layer. And I'm going to build this mag. All right, so I'm going to zoom in on it just a little bit, so it makes it a little bit easier for me. Make sure I'm on layer 3. Pathfinder I don't need right now. Same basic idea. Come over here and grab my ellipse tool. I'm going to change it this time, though, to the fill. I'm going to put the fill out on the stroke right from the beginning. And what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go 4, which is what I think I had. And then I'm going to start making my circle. All right, holding down the Shift key to make a full circle, space bar to move it. And I'm going to get the thing close to what I want. Space bar to bring it down a little bit, bring it in about what I want, which I think is probably good right there. Okay. Now, use the scissors tool, and we cut. Actually, I want to make it 3. Yeah, that's a little bit better. 3. And then I'm going to cut right there, and I'm going to cut right there. If I can get it over there. Boom, I got it. Okay, delete. There, okay. So now I have my M. Now I'm going to scroll this thing down a little bit. My layers are good for now. Let me scroll this thing down a little bit. There we go. Give it down here. Take this piece here, move it down to there, because this is where I'm going to be working. There we go. All right, now again, same basic idea. Same basic idea. I'm going to come in here with my Add Anchor Point tool. First go Object, Path, right? Outline Stroke. So now I have a shape. This is what's great about this is I'm teaching you one of the most important points of Adobe Illustrator is that in the end, everything you do, no matter what it is a basic graphic shape of some kind or another. And if you know a little bit about the program, you can take anything that you're working with and turn it into basic shapes that you can then go in and modify. And it makes things a whole heck of a lot easier, and it gives you a whole lot of options that you might not, have thought about before. Now, again, if I wanted to, I could go Edit, Undo, and I could go over to my stroke panel, and I could round the bottoms like that. You see what I mean? So before I actually get into the process of doing this, I could round the bottoms. But I don't think I'm going to do that in this case. I think what I'll do is I'm just going to go with a butt cap, if that's okay with you. You guys don't mind, do you?
Nope.
No. So then I'm going to come over here with my Add Anchor Point tool, and I'm going to carefully, well, actually go to Object, Path. Got to keep in mind that you've got to work on a shape. You can't work on a path. Go Outline Stroke. Then I can come in here, and I like to get pretty close to it when I do this. So I make sure I get these things as close to the other point as I can get them, because it really matters. There we go. Real close. Real close.
Before you fully modify that, are you going to duplicate it so you have one for the other side?
Nope.
Okay.
You'll see why in a minute. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to click on that. Okay? And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it, and I'm going to go Edit, Copy, and duplicate it now. The reason I duplicated it now is because now I got all the points on it.
I already got it at this anchor points.
Yeah. And I'll actually move it down just a touch right there. There we go. Okay, now go back to my Direct Selection tool, and I'm going to zoom out, View, Zoom Out. Okay, and might zoom out again, View, Zoom Out again. Yeah, there we go. And I think I need to scroll this up a little bit. There we go. And I'm going to, with my Direct Selection tool, click on that point right there. Hold down the Shift key and click on that point right there. And then I'm going to bring it down until I hit that line right there. See it? There's my bottom guide. There it is. Okay? Now, I'm going to select it. I'm going to come over here to this tool right there. Do you see the Rotate tool and the Reflect tool? You familiar with them?
Yes.
All right, so you get the Reflect tool, double click on it, and I'm going to vertically reflect it. I'm going to hit Preview, and you see what it does? And then I hit Copy. And you see what it did?
Yep.
And now all I got to do is this. The one that's selected is the one that I just made the copy of. I'm just going to move that guy over here until I reach that center point, and I got my M. Zoom in on this thing. Okay? And there's my M. Look at that. Now, I can do whatever I want with this. I'm going to start off by selecting my anchor points, all right? The bottom anchor points. Hold down the Shift key. And now I'm going to go View, Fit Artboard in Window. And I probably went, I'll zoom in a little bit on it. Let me zoom in a little bit like this. Yeah, there we go. And scroll up. Now I got to decide what I want to do with that center. I don't know how far down I want to go with it. You know, I may go all the way down to the bottom like that, okay? Or I may not. I could maybe go like that. See what I mean? I could go like that. That's an M. So anywhere I want to go with this, I just have to decide where I want it to be, okay? So there's my M. Now, let's say that's what I want, okay? I'm going to select both of those guys, and with my Pathfinder panel, I'm going to combine them, and I got an M. And it actually looks pretty good, doesn't it? Now let's go Edit, Paste, and there is my A, the top of my A. I move my A over to about there. And again, come in here and zoom in on it. Zoom in on the thing. And I'm just gonna bring this A down, and then I'm gonna save it, and we'll call it a night. And we'll pick up here tomorrow night if that's okay with you guys, because we're really at the end of our night. I'll give you a couple of minutes if you want to ask me any questions you might have. But with the Direct Selection tool, I can come in here. Watch this. I can actually come in here and I can click on that point and then click on that point, and I can click on that point and that point, all holding the Shift key down. And now I can bring both sides down. See that?
Nice.
Yeah, it's really nice. Bring it down. And here's something else you might find cool. You see those little circles in there? See those little circles in there? Watch this. This is nuts. With the Direct Selection tool, see those circles?
That helps you round them, right?
Yeah. If I wanted to round them, look at that.
Yeah, nice.
Isn't that nuts? Look at this. Look at that. I can make them round. It's crazy cool. All right? Let's go let's come up here a little bit. Did you learn anything tonight?
Yeah, for sure.
Was it boring?
Nope.
No.
Oh, good. I hope so. I hope you like it. Oh, look at that. See what it did? It actually, holy mackerel, that's incredible. Look at that.
Did it do it all of them for you?
Yeah, it did. Look at that. Not crazy. It did it all. Isn't that nuts? I love it. All right, look. File save. File save. We're at 8:59. I'm going to stop here because what I want to do tomorrow is I want to pick up and I want to go right from here. Again, I'm going to just make the MAG. But, you know, the thing is that once I make this MAG, I look at it and I think it's actually very plain. I would probably, if I was going to do that MAG, and I like this kind of MAG, this might be the one that I would actually work on because I really like it. I would probably mess around with this quite significantly. Like, for instance, this G here, I really don't like the way that G is just sitting like that. I might actually let me go to the layers panel. Where the heck's the layers panel? What did I do? Put it away? No, it's right here. There it is. Let me unlock that. I might do this. I might actually rotate this thing. You know, I need to do something like that. I need to do something more to this MAG. See what I'm trying to say? I don't know. I'd have to play with this a little bit to get something interesting happening. But I just wanted you to get a sense that, you know, you can make something pretty much out of nothing, you know? And I thought this was a great example of that. And I thought that this was a great example of it. So it's 9 o'clock. You guys got any final thoughts or anything before we call it a night?
Nope.
I don't. That was awesome. Thank you very much.
All right. You guys be back tomorrow?
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right. I will see you tomorrow. Thank you very much for coming. I love it when students show up because we can actually have this great little exchange. So it was great for me. I really enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow night.
Likewise. Have a good night.
All right. You have a good night, too.